Alright guys, continuing my video series here on kind of old news. I just wanted to talk about the PlayStation 5 reveal from a few weeks ago since, it's pretty big news and I haven't really had a chance to get my thoughts about it, so I'm going to talk about it here. So, Sony had their, what they call it, future of gaming, whatever kind of bullshit tagline they want to put on this, where they finally actually showed the PS5 console itself after like what almost a year of talking about the darn thing. We actually finally got to see what it looks like, which I thought it looked okay. I know there's a lot of divided opinion on the appearance of this thing. I thought it looked fine. It's got the two-tone white and black design with the blue lights. I thought it looked pretty good. I guess it's more of a, for lack of a better word, I guess modern design. I don't know, futuristic. I don't know, whatever word you want to use to describe it. I thought it looked okay. I saw the memes where people edited Seto Kaiba's head onto it because the top of it looks like the collar from his season 2 outfit that was like black with the silver jacket. I thought that was funny. But, I think it looks fine. Obviously I'm not terribly concerned with how a console looks. I'm more concerned about the actual games on it. But appearance wise, I thought it was fine. It's really big too. I saw a picture someone tweeted out where they were comparing it to, I think it was a Switch Lite and some model of the Xbox One. I think it was the Xbox One S, but it was fairly larger than both of those. So at least the original, I'm sure they'll do a slim model later down the road because they always do. But at least the original release model of this thing is going to be pretty beefy. But they showed that. They also said that there's going to be a digital edition for this thing because, they're still trying to push the all digital future bullshit. Which they're normalizing it. They're working on it. They're boiling the frog, which they'll probably succeed because they've managed to normalize all the other shitty business practices that they've implemented over the years, and people keep falling for it because gaming is infested with brain dead normies. But that's a that's a rant for another day. But yeah, it's a digital edition console. It's exactly the same as the regular one, except it doesn't have a disc drive. So any games you get has to be download only. Which anyone who buys this is a complete fool. You're just sacrificing your property rights for no reason. Anyway, they gave no price and no exact release date still for any of this. I'm guessing they're probably not going to announce a price until Microsoft announces the price of the Xbox Series X, which they still haven't done either. So, who knows when we'll actually get a price point for these things. Release date is still just, holiday 2020, so it is coming this year. I know there's rumors about it might end up being scarce or whatever for a while because of the common cold messing up production lines and things. But anyway, enough about the actual console itself. Getting on to the main beef of the presentation was the games. They actually did show quite a few games for this thing, finally. Which I'm not going to go through every single one and talk about them because a lot of them I just don't care about. There was a ton of cinematic trailers throughout this thing, which has been a problem for several years now. Just, don't show any gameplay. Here's a pretty looking trailer that doesn't really tell you anything of value about the game, but it looks really nice. And those trailers tend to blur together over time the more and more of them we get, especially when you get a lot back to back in a presentation like this. A few of the bigger things of note that stuck out, there were several new IPs, a lot of which included cats for some reason. There's a lot of cats in these trailers, hologram cats, cyberpunk cats. I don't know what's going on. But there was cats everywhere. We're getting a sequel to the Spider-Man game that come out, last year? Year before last? I don't even remember. I still haven't played that game yet. I don't know if I'm going to. But we're getting another Spider-Man game about Miles Morales. They announced Gran Turismo 7. They're doing a remaster or a remake of Demon Souls. So that was like some of the more key things that they showed that I don't have a lot to say about. But the games that stood out to me personally more, that I actually want to talk a little more in depth about, we are getting a new Ratchet and Clank game from Insomniac. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is the name of it, where it showed them like dimension hopping and going through portals. Which I thought this looked pretty cool. I'm a fan of the Ratchet and Clank series. Now, full disclosure, I haven't played a lot of the more newer titles in the series, so I'm not as knowledgeable about it as some people would be. But I'm a general supporter of the series, so it's nice that we're finally getting a new title. This is the first big time new title that series has gotten in a while, since I think wasn't the last big Ratchet and Clank release the remake to go along with the movie. I think that was the last one that we got that was like significant. But anyway, they showed that, so that was interesting. They showed a game that really jumped out to me as something unique and different. It's called Bugsnax, and it looked really weird. It was like I think a walrus or something. I don't know what this thing was. It was like off in a jungle somewhere with a safari hat on, and it was hunting these little bug things that looked like they were made out of food. They had one that like it was basically just a strawberry with googly eyes glued to it, but it was like walking around on its sleeves. And there was one that was like a hamburger, and all these different ones, an ice cream cone. All these different little creatures that are based on food and look like insects. And I thought that looked really unique. That jumped out at me as something different. Uh, I have no idea if the game itself is going to be any count or not, because they still didn't actually show any fucking gameplay or anything remotely giving you a clue of what the actual game is going to be like. But as far as a concept, at least, I thought it was something different, and that's something that gaming definitely needs more of right now. So I'll keep an eye on it and see where it goes. You know, who knows? It might end up being awful, but at least it's something to keep an eye on. And then lastly, I think this was the last game they showed. This is the one that had me personally most excited. We are getting a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, which really isn't a surprise because it sold like, what, 10 million copies or something insane. So we're getting a sequel. It's called Horizon Forbidden West. And this looks so awesome. This was like my favorite thing they showed in this entire presentation. Part of me really didn't want them to show this right now. I expected them to, because there's been rumors that the sequel's already in development and everything anyway. But I was hoping that they would not show it right now, because personally I still have no plans to get a PS5 at launch. I'll get one eventually at some point, but I don't want to get one right now. And this game is probably going to end up coming out. It's not a launch title, it's coming 2021. But it's probably going to end up coming out before I actually get the console to play on, so I'm going to have to end up waiting before I can actually play it. Which kind of pisses me off a little bit, but, you know, it is what it is. I'm just going to have to wait. So, again, cinematic trailer, they didn't really show any gameplay or anything, but they showed that obviously it's called Forbidden West, so we're going to be traveling west in this game all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So it showed Aloy like traveling. She was on the beach. It showed some, I think, some hermit crabs or something skittering around, and showed some fish and seagulls and things. So a lot more natural wildlife than the first game had. It showed several new machines, which Guerrilla Games has since told the names of some of these machines through trailers, or not trailers, but through like developer interviews and through their Twitter and stuff. I don't have them all in front of me, and I've forgotten them, so excuse me for not having the names of some of these machines. But they showed one that looked like a giant mammoth thing with like big tusks. They showed one that kind of looked like a pterodactyl, but its wings were like solar panels. They showed a big, like, tortoise snapping turtle looking thing, like, rising up out of the ground. A lot of cool stuff. So, several new machines were shown. They showed Aloy diving underwater with, like, a thing on her mouth to breathe. And there was, like, a whole ruins and everything under the water. So, it looks like we might be getting underwater exploration in this game, which I think is really cool. There was one scene where Aloy was, it looked like she was in a desert or something, but like a giant hologram of like a Chinese dragon was like swirling around her, and it looked really cool. I have no idea what that was. It's probably just like the ruins of like a Chinese restaurant or something, and it's like a promotional ad or something for their restaurant. Something really insignificant like that, but it looked really cool. So it had the big dragon swirling around. I'm excited for this game. As everyone knows, I was a big fan of the first game. I did a ton of videos of it here on this channel. I was really looking forward to a sequel. Uh, Hopefully it turns out well. I have had a really bad track record lately of games I'm looking forward to turning into massive turds. so so hopefully this doesn't get fucked up in some fashion. But right now, going off of what very little information we have, it looks like it's going to be good. So I'll be following this pretty close. One thing I hope that they improve on in this game from the first is I hope they expand on the melee combat a lot, because in the first one you had the bows and the slingshots and things. There was a lot of like ranged weapons, but as far as up close combat, the only weapon you had was your spear, and you really had like one or two moves you could do with that besides the stealth kill. So I hope they expand on that, maybe give us more melee weapons, different sort of maybe skills, new skills that you can learn as you level up to improve your melee combat, maybe a dodge mechanic. There's a lot of room for improvement on the up close and personal melee combat, so hopefully they expand on that. And of course, story wise, hopefully they go into, who sent the signal that caused Gaia to be all fucked up, and maybe get a little bit more on what Silence plans to do with Hades. Because we did see Silence in this trailer. He did show up briefly. When at the end, if you remember at the end of the first game, there was a post-credit sequence where he like absorbs Hades' data into the little lantern thing or whatever it was he had. So hopefully they go more into that. It would be really cool if we could fight one of the metal devils in this game. I hope we get like bigger, more elaborate boss battles, because we saw those like frozen in mountains and stuff. It'd be cool if one of those like activates and comes to life, and we just had to fight this absolutely massive machine. Like, that'd be really cool. So I'm looking forward to this game. Like I said, it's coming out next year. That's definitely the thing that they showed that stood out the most to me personally as something to get excited for. But as a presentation overall, I wasn't really blown away by it. Most of the stuff didn't, outside of Horizon, most of the stuff didn't really impress me too much. And it didn't really change my position on what I plan to do for this gen. Like, this entire console generation in general, to me, is just not very thrilling. So I'm sticking to my original plan of not getting a PS5 at launch. I'm probably going to wait until price cuts, or a new cheaper model if they do the slim model or whatever later. I'm probably going to wait for that to happen to actually make my purchase, which is what I usually do. I don't usually get any sort of console on day one or anything like that. The closest I've come was the original 3DS. I got it, I think, a few months after launch. Other than that, I generally wait for a while anyway, so I'm just going to stick to what I usually do. Especially with Sony, the way Sony is now, I'm definitely not inspired to rush out and buy anything from them. It's definitely better to take more of a wait-and-see approach. I'm sure their censorship issues are going to continue into this gen, which means when I do get a PS5, it's probably going to end up having a lot fewer games on it than I would normally get. since a lot of Japanese developers just can't function as they would on that platform right now. Yeah, but anyway, overall, I thought the presentation was kind of weak, but Horizon Forbidden West at least got me excited. So, anyway, I guess that's all I got to say. So, lots of luck to you and yours.